Hi guys, my name is Jacob, and I am going to introduce you today to, Jacob and Amanda's scenario. Thanks for listening, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks. So, meet us. So, my name's Jacob. I am just graduating actually right now with my bachelor's in molecular biology, and I leave to start studying at St. Louis University to get my medical degree at the end of next month. Um, Amanda here is my beautiful fiance. She studied corporate wellness and is going to be looking for a job out in St. Louis. We actually get married on June 28th, and we are very excited about it. So just to introduce you guys a little bit to what our financial situation is. Amanda's going to hopefully make around $40,000 a year, and that's based off of average income for people starting in her area, and that gives us about $333,000 each month. And following the 25% rule, that gives us $833 to put towards a mortgage each month. We're not really looking for anything that big when we move out to St. Louis. A one bed, one bath. We want natural lighting, and we want to be close to other LDS people, just because we're used to being out here by BYU, and we want to have that kind of that feeling out there. So this is our Hearst home, our dream home, in fact. The nice thing about it is it's in an area that's close to other members in the ward. The selling agency is one that we know, which gives us the chance to trust it. It's close to the school, and it's fairly large. It's a little bit expensive. It ends up being about $813 a month, and it's listed $110,000. And we would hopefully be working with a mortgage period of 15 years. This is the modest home we are looking at. Once again, actually not a bad choice. It's inexpensive, close to the school. It's close to this place in St. Louis. This huge park. They always brag that it's bigger than Central Park in New York. So it's a really good option, and it's considerably cheaper. It's $85,000 with a $628 mortgage payment, and once again going for a 15-year mortgage period. So this is our budget. Like I said before, we're going to be making $333,000 a year or a month, and these are the payments that we're hoping to make on things. You'll remember from our last slide that our mortgage payment on the modest home was about $628 a month, and this was built with that in mind. We put $666 just in case we end up buying a more expensive home or something along those lines. All these other expenses are based off of what we've seen in our life so far with budgeting, and it works out pretty well that we end up having a good amount of leftover savings at the end of the month that we can put towards other investments. Yeah. So this is our emergency fund savings plan. We decided to go with the amount of a 6-month safety fund range. The reason for this is that we're going to be in an area that we're not really familiar with. That means that we wouldn't have really the chance to fall back on family members and live with them. So we want to make a safe, kind of comfortable blanket for us. On top of that, it's hard for me to start working because I'm going to be in medical school. That's why we wanted to go for kind of the safer route with a higher savings. And you'll see here that the time required to reach this goal is significantly less with a bond mutual fund. It's almost half a month. So I guess not huge, but it makes a difference as to how long it takes for us to reach our goal. Here's the down payment savings plan to hopefully get 20% down, or sorry, no, not 20%, 5% down on a future home. The reason we chose this number is that we really can't realistically achieve 20% down payment anytime in the near future. Um, and really, we can't afford really to actually buy a home in the near future, but we're going to get into that later. But we chose 5% for this, and it looks like it'd take about 14 months to save up for that. When we compare the difference between mortgage rates and credit score, you'll see, according to this graph on the left, that mortgage costs go significantly up as you have a lower credit. You'll see here, these are all based off of somebody with 20% down payment. Having a higher mortgage, having a higher credit score significantly decreases the amount you need to pay. On top of this, you can do other things to decrease the interest rates on your home. In order to get the best interest rate, you should look into getting a 15-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage, and look into putting about 20% down on your home. This gets rid of the need to get private mortgage insurance and can significantly decrease the cost of your mortgage. So one of the advantages to owning a home is that the interest that you pay on your home and also the insurance that you pay on your home can both be taken as deductions from your annual gross income. The issue in our case is we really don't make that much money, and as a result, we really don't have that much that we can deduct. In our case, both without a home and with a home, we end up using the standard deduction. So the tax advantages of a home don't really apply to us super well, but it is something to keep in mind that as we have the opportunity to contribute more to our IRA and 401k and other things like that, we will have the opportunity, and as we pay higher estate taxes, we make more money, it will be a huge benefit to us to have a home, because then we can use that on top of whatever we're saving with our deductions. This is the quote we got on our home. It's $99 a month for the area, and yeah, it was given to us by Nationwide. As far as transportation goes, I have a bunch written here just because I want to have it all included for the slides that I submitted. But just to summarize it, Amanda is going to be using the car in the city, and we're going to try and decrease our expenses by only owning one car. We don't plan on buying a home anytime soon because I'm going to be so close to the school and I can bike there every day. But if we were to buy a home, to buy a car, we would look into getting a used car, just because of the huge amounts of depreciation in the first couple of years. As far as long-term debts that we have $4,000 annually of tithing. That's based off of the hope that we can get a job for Amanda that is in the range of about $40,000 a year. On top of that, I have about $15,000 in school loans. Luckily, right now I have to pay $0 annually until I graduate from medical school. That's going to go up significantly. We're predicting that we'll graduate from medical school with about $190,000 in student loan debt, and we plan on paying it off aggressively after graduating. Here is the PITI and home affordability ratio, and this is based off the idea that you don't want to exceed your back end percentage of 38%. And you'll see here that it kind of boils down to this last part right here. I'm sorry. This is based off of the front end. You'll see here that it is about 20% and 26% on these two, and that ends up coming out to about where the modest home is better for us and the dream home is it's too expensive on the front end. As far as back end goes, like I said before, we are going to be paying 10% of our income on our tithing for now, but not on anything else, so you can add 10% to that. That ends up being, for the back end, 30% on the modest home and 36 on the dream home. So according to back end, we can't afford both, but according to front end, we can only afford the modest home. Here's where we talk a little bit about the pros and cons of renting and buying. Renting, really, the pros are, and these are what we're looking to right now, is how easy it is to move between homes. We haven't been out to St. Louis. We've only done video tours, and it's just not a good plan to buy a home without ever seeing it. So that's huge to us, is that even if we end up in a bad place to start off, we can move quickly. There's also no maintenance that we have to worry about as far as upkeeping the home, and that's important for me right now because I'm not going to have the time to really focus on that while I'm in medical school. Cons, of course, you're not building equity, so you're not perhaps saving as much money as you could. In our case, it doesn't quite work that way anyways, though I'll address that later. And you also can't really choose to do what you want with the home. As far as pros of buying a home, you have the pride of ownership, and like I said, equity. And cons are property tax, and really the big thing we're worried about is being stuck in a place that we don't end up liking. So our final decision on renting, and we kind of repeat this on the last part of the slide, is that it's really not worth it for us to buy a home right now because we're actually moving, within the next 5 years after I finish medical school. This means that the money that we're saving on equity and all those sorts of things don't really have a good opportunity to overcome the cost of simply buying and renting through an agent. And that's assuming that the market does well, plus all the things we talked about with being stuck in an area. Because of all these things, we think it's better for us to rent. This is the PITI and PMI on both the modest and the dream home, and you can see here that when you put it all together, we end up having to pay a significant amount of money on our private mortgage insurance, actually. It looks like we end up spending about 98 months in both cases because we're doing a 15-year home with the same down payment on both as our hope. And we end up sending a significant amount of money just on that insurance. That's on the modest home, that's it's about $10,000, and on the dream home it's about $12,000, and that's money you're really just throwing away, because if you had the down payment of 20%, then you wouldn't even have to worry about this. As far as buying a home for 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage, it really doesn't make any sense to me to buy a 30-year mortgage unless you really need some home, and it doesn't make sense to me. I think it makes more sense to go with the 15-year mortgage with a more affordable home. You can see that you are going to save significant amounts of money on the total mortgage interest paid, $99,000 versus $315,000. There's a bunch here. This is talking about the pros and cons of treating a home as a financial investment. At the end of the day, most financial investments that you make should not take an impact, or that you shouldn't make a financial investment that changes your way of living in a negative way. What I'm trying to maybe I can try that a little bit better. When you buy a home, there's a lot of factors that go into it. You have to worry about things like religious factors, family factors, social factors, where you want to be, what you want your kids to be in the neighborhood. And if you end up buying a home just because you want a neighborhood where you see that home prices are increasing, or you can afford the neighborhood, or any of those things, you need to remember you're going to live in that home for the next 15 years. You might think to yourself, I can save all this money by buying some really terrible home for $60,000, $50,000. And it's true, you might save some money, but you might just really not enjoy where you're living. And that's why it's important that you don't only make a decision on a home based off of, kind of what the money is. And that's why it's really important that you don't only think of your home as an investment. That's why I might recommend that instead of thinking, focusing on a home as your investment, focus on